You are a family law attorney.
Mm-hmm.
A great deal percentage of your cases has to do with domestic violence. And by the way, it's going to be a very major theme on today's show. From what you know and your expertise, what do you make of the way that her husband has behaved himself?
He's the definition of a controlling and abusive partner. From his behavior, like manipulative,
narcissistic, the buzzword that everybody likes.
Alienating. It's just everything that you find in that definition of domestic violence. He pretty much matches everything except, well, I don't know about if there was any physical violence. I think there was like an allegation that she had a black eye once.
Well, I can tell you this. There's unequivocally been evidence of him slashing tires, placing GPS trackers on her car, showing up at car dealerships that he learned of her location from the GPS trackers, causing a scene. I got some video of that we're going to go over.
Naked pictures of her.
Oh, on Facebook, and then apologizing. Hey, so it was really evil that I did that, but the picture's only up for an hour, and it's because he pissed me off, and we're going to talk about that. So at 2:54, you hear that 911 call, and let's hear the 911 call. I want to play that before we go any further. This is it. I'm going to play the entire 2-minute thing, and just there's a major trigger warning. This is going to be dealing with stories of self-harm. And this isn't a story. This is a real-life phone call that Micah played shortly before her death. But this is the actual 911 call that was placed. It's a heartbreaking to listen to, so be forewarned. But here we go.
Robeson County 911, what's the address of your emergency?
Hi, are you able to trace the location of my phone?
Let me see. You don't know where you're at?
At National Park.
What's the phone number you're calling me from? Where's the park located at?
In Bear Bluff.
Let's see.
I have my location on, I think, on my phone. Find my phone is on. I just did my my location.
Okay, I'm showing, hold on one second. I don't think you are in Robeson County. Are you at the Lumber River State Park?
Yeah, that's where I am.
Okay. Tell me what's happened.
I'm about to kill myself, and I just want my family to know where to find me.
Okay, ma'am. Just listen to what I'm saying, okay? Let me make sure I got the exact location where you're at, okay? Just 1 minute.
Is that it? I think that's the entire thing. Okay. Ileana, does that sound like an AI-generated phone call to you?
I don't think so.
No, well, I have an example. I wanted to know how easy it would be to create an AI-generated version of my voice. Okay. I feel like you would, Well, let me just give you an example.
Please.
I have created an AI version of my voice. I'm going to play it for the audience, and I want you guys to be the judge. Okay. It's going to be my tagline for Mic Checks. Here's me. This is obviously me. The following has been a message brought to you by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Okay. Now, here's AI-generated Omar saying the same thing. The following has been a message brought to you by the Gibber of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That doesn't sound anything like me, not even a little bit. It's like all nasally and
computer
little
generated.
high computer generated. Now, it's probably not the best of AI software,
Yes.
but it's difficult to produce an actual likeness of somebody's voice as far as I have tried. Now, I'm not an expert on AI by any means, but my experience with AI is it's really good at doing some things, but
Not
in
everything.
terms of faking human likeness, it's not there yet. That doesn't sound. Look, there would have had to have been a couple of different things go right. Number one, the timing, being able to respond to the actual questions from the
Yes.
911 operator. It would have had to been pre-recorded. He would have had to have been able to plot a script that would be followed and not have anything go wrong. I don't buy the AI voice theory.
Neither.
Here's what I wanted to ask you. We have seen how evidence has been influenced by the advent of DNA evidence. Back in the late 70s, early 80s, when it became a thing, it changed the landscape of criminal investigations going forward forever. Forever. Similarly, as cell phones have become more accurate, they have served as bastions for truth-telling and affected necessarily the way, and we're seeing it in the Karen Reed case. The Karen Reed case, the guy literally is deleting evidence, and he's like having to explain himself. Why would you delete evidence when you know there's an ongoing investigation? That's the one with the big cover. I don't want to get off track on Karen Reed because I got so much to say about that. We've seen how cell phones have affected the collection of evidence and how they've influenced criminal trials. How do you think that artificial intelligence is going to influence evidence going forward? Because we've already seen, we literally have surveillance, pictures, GPS tracking of her going to a location, witnesses, and then the family saying, yeah, well, it was AI. What do you think?
I think, so far, the way that I see it is that it may have a negative impact compared to the other technologies.
When the standard is reasonable doubt, it's another avenue for defense attorneys to latch onto. Like, look,
Exactly.
I know that you're looking at a video. I know how convincing it seems to you, but I want you to pay attention to the tenor of my client's voice here, and it could be some random party, contextually completely inappropriate, not in the same line of what he's being questioned on. And in this video, do you honestly believe in your heart of hearts that would have came out of my client's mouth? And now,
That's one way to use it. The defensive.
character evidence becomes a little bit more relevant because we need to have a record of tenor of voice, context of speech, patterns of speech, and things like that. Here's what I believe. I believe this, that most men, all men, should engage themselves in a form of martial art. I've said this many times. I feel like it's a necessary,
Men or women?
well, men and women, but especially men. Here's what I know. When men talk to each other, man to man, there is always a low-level threat of violence where there's an understanding that, look, if you say the wrong thing, we're going to be fighting.
Yes.
When men and women communicate, men have that mentality and they like to use their physicality to intimidate females to win conversations. Some men do that. You know who don't do that? Well-refined men that are secure in their manhood, secure in their abilities, secure in whatever, secure in a lot of things. They've grown up, they've matured. They're not resorting to that kind of amateur, juvenile activity, behavior, whatever. When a man engages in martial arts and they understand what it feels like to be in the presence of another man that could rip your limbs off, limb for limb, whenever he wants to, for no reason at all, when they understand that fear, it does something psychologically to a man. And I believe that men are raised when they're young boys to believe that they're superheroes. Spider-Man, I'm He-Man, I'm master of the universe. My mom said I'm the strongest.
Untouchable.
If they're not in sports, they start to believe these things about themselves until they're in a fight. And like Mike Tyson says, everybody's got a plan, so they get punched in the face. And if they've never been in that environment, to know that they could, there's men out there that could take them apart, then they don't have an appreciation for it, and it affects the way that they communicate with women. And especially an insecure man who is jealous, because think about what men go through. They spend their entire lives learning how to get women, attract women, talk to women, and they spend their entire life coming up, being built up by friends and family or whatever, and then being torn down by the reality of, hey, I really don't know what I'm doing when talking to women. That was my experience. Dominic said that was his experience. And, you go through all of these bouts of rejection, and if you don't have a good support system, you develop all of these insecurities. And then these insecurities take hold if you don't deal with them, and they present themselves as in, if this woman is not doing this for me, then she must be cheating on me. She must not love me that much. And you become so fixated on that, infatuated with that idea, that it turns into you now communicate with women by threat of violence, because it's the only way that you're going to win the argument. You could always rely on that. Well, I might not be the best guy for her, but I could sure kick her ass if I wanted to. And, men that rely on that, they just, it manifests itself as domestic violence. I feel like this guy has grown overconfident in his ability to persuade women by virtue of his position of power in the church. I know I'm going on a rant, but I'm going somewhere with this. And he used that to manipulate his wife, and the pressure must have been immense because of how public they were with their relationship. And, she suffered severe mental anguish as a result that led her on at least 2 occasions to try to end her life, once unsuccessfully, and the final time she was successful. So it taught me a lot when I was in high school in wrestling. The first time I've ever experienced the feeling of just being physically helpless was around my wrestling coach, who to this day is the scariest. He could be 90 years old sitting in a wheelchair. I would still fear that guy because I'll always remember the feeling of wrestling with him, and I'm trying my best, and there's literally nothing I could do. I could try my hardest. I can't move his arm. He's just blocking me. And if I would be able to grab his leg to like shoot in or something, it's because he let me. And at any point, he could have ended my life within 20 seconds by a split second with snapping my neck. And my respect for that level of fear carried with me in how I communicate with everybody. People that are in martial arts, not only are they cool with women, but they're cool with everybody. It's like, hey, we don't have to resort to violence. Violence. It's like, we know what could happen with it. Why don't we just be cool with each other? And they're usually really good about that. But there are some men that don't have that experience, and it manifests as domestic violence. And when they're confronted with somebody that is not persuaded by their physical intimidation tactics, then it's like, well, I just feel so intimidated by this lawyer because I feel like he's trying to intimidate me because he's whatever. On 3 occasions I've experienced. 3 times, I literally did nothing. I was in the courthouse, literally in the courtroom. It's a response. It's a defensive response that insecure men have to do that. So, Ileana, this one's for you.
Okay.
What are my rights in this situation? I am on disability, while my husband has been the breadwinner since diagnosis. I can't afford to live on my own, and I'm emotionally devastated and shocked that he is asking for a divorce. He has stated that he will go to jail rather than pay alimony, and good luck proving his income. He's a business owner. Ileana, how do we prove the income of business owners that try to hide money?
Most of the time is going backwards, showing the expenses.
Showing the expenses,
Yeah.
profit and loss statements. He may or may not be filing taxes, but that money's going somewhere. If it's a cash-only business, there's always fingerprints. We could always find the money.
And the applications for, usually the good ones are the applications for car loans. Those usually show.
Oh yeah, what was your stated income when you bought that Toyota Tundra?
Yes.
You said that you were making $20,000 a month. Well, I was lying because I was trying to get a favorable credit term. Wait a minute. So you were lying there. How do I know you're not lying right now? Piece of
Yes, that's a
Edit
classic.
that one out. Yeah, that is a classic. I've actually had my client do that when I was a young attorney, and then my client tried pulling that, and then in discovery they came out that, oh, by the way, I got his loan application. He's claiming he only makes like $2,500 a month, but on his loan application he's making $17,500. And then he literally said, Your Honor, I just said that because I was trying to get a good deal. And then the judge is like, you're a liar. I'm going to go off of that. And now we're going to calculate support.
I've seen it happen a couple of times in court. And whenever it happens, I'm like, oh, God.
Yeah.
It's fun.
So he has intentionally stopped paying insurance, which he's not allowed to do in an ATRO situation. Usually there's an automatic temporary restraining order that requires that everybody maintain their insurance, not move the assets, don't sell anything off, keep paying what you're paying until we figure all this out. So he's already screwing himself. Now I have no insurance for treatment, so he's going to pay for that. I can't afford an attorney, so I don't know what to do. Well, petition for him to pay for your attorney fees. It'd be the place that I would start. So she says that I spoke to an attorney today, and while I can't afford him, he was kind enough to go over my situation with me. He says we're both responsible for all debts, no matter what, no matter whose name they're in, which is true. He said we would have 3 options with our home. He could buy me out, I could buy him out, or we could sell and split any profits, which is true. He would definitely be liable to me for alimony, for sure. He says I'm entitled to half his business, but the problem there is that he is the business. Without him, there is no business, minus a few pieces of equipment. But you're still entitled to half that business. It doesn't matter what his role is. If it's deemed to be a community business, then, there's still going to be some liability there. Says, I also spoke to the social worker at the hospital while I was getting my infusion today. She's going to work on insurance grants for me. So moving in the right direction. However, I try to get husband to talk and go over what I learned to see if we could come to a peaceful agreement. And he went off on me for going to see an attorney, and I don't give a shit about what he thinks. I encouraged him to seek advice as well. Then maybe hopefully we can come to an agreement and save ourselves. Well, if he talks to an attorney, I could tell you that he's going to be admonished for doing stupid things. You can't.
Depends on who he talks to.
Well, that's true. If he was talking to me, he's like, you're an idiot for taking her off the insurance. Why would you do that? So I'm supposed to go up there in front of this judge, and it's going to come out that not only was your wife diagnosed with cancer, your wife of 25 years, but you took her off of the insurance, you piece of shit. What do you think the judge is going to come down? What do you think she's going to say to you? Congratulations, that was good thinking. I completely support you in your plight to become, this aggrieved husband. Get out of here with that. You've completely screwed yourself. He may be sanctioned for violating the ATROs, among other things. He's going to be paying alimony. I would let him know that he's going to be paying alimony. And it's best if he enters into an agreement to undo the stupid things that he did. That is probably going to get him sanctioned. He may end up having to pay her attorney fees just because of the things that he's done, forcing her to get an attorney. So whoever this attorney is she talked to, he should have told her that he can petition the court to have him pay for her attorney fees. That's going to help her afford some of these costs. And perhaps, I don't know. It's a tough situation. I don't know how she's going to get much. She's going to have to find an attorney that's willing to take on the case in the hopes that they might recover attorney fees by motion or by sanction, which most attorneys are not going to be willing to do. They like to get paid up front. Exactly. So if she could get some kind of family to, pony up for an initial payment on retainer, and then that will give them time.
For that motion.
That's probably the best. How would you advise her, Eliana?
Well, another option, but I know not every attorney does this, but it will require a little bit of work up front also. Just doing a family law attorney lien on the property if they have a... But of course, the attorney would need to be willing to, of course, work up front without money, knowing that eventually they're going to get
Some attorneys do. Yeah, some of them will, but that's what, and there's attorneys out there. There's family law attorneys that are out there. There's not a lot of them that would do that because it requires all this extra stuff. It's like, I'm never going to get paid on this case. But she's on the right track with where she's going, but it's worth it if she can spring together money to at least get the process started.
Exactly.
Get that motion on calendar. Because she has a compelling story. There's no judge
Yes.
that I could think of that I'm aware of that would hear that story and not severely punish that guy.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're going to be paying her support. And you know what? I'm going to award her attorney fees in the amount of $25,000 on the, which I don't know if that would be that much. Probably not.
Probably not.
But, you know, something.
Yeah, just to make sure that she's covered.
But I have a specific judge in mind. I know for a fact that she would go all in on this guy. Oh, yeah, I'm doing whatever I can. His guy's going to pay. So that's what I have to say to her on that one. All right.